I can't fucking stop laughing.
Did he freeze?
Stop laughing. Oh, we've been huffing nitrous.
Not over here. We're not huffing nitrous. We're huffing diesel.
Oh, you don't know what that's from? That's from Black Sheep.
That cetane, bro.
That cetane. Welcome back, everybody, to the Powerstroke Podcast, number 20. We got my buddy Mark. We got Zach from the West Coast, and none other DS Trucks live and in person from the garage. And we got PTT up here. We are missing Mr. Matt and Reelan. Cheers to you guys, to the bubbly. Extra loud.
430 gears.
430 gears. We're gonna start off today. I want to let everybody know who does not know. Let me look at my notes really quick. We are on all the other podcast apps, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, Amazon, and Podbeam. So if you guys do not have YouTube or the means of watching it in the background, you guys can now download us. And right now we're over 100 downloads in a day since we have let them go live. So it's been pretty cool to see the growth. People are definitely checking us out. So for only having 10 out there so far, we are recording number 20. We're getting some good feedback. So, what else was I going to say, Mark? Oh, t-shirts, merch. If anybody wants to get with some merch, I have new shirts coming similar to this. We have this on the front, and we have that on the back. I got different colors this time. I had blue and black, but now I'm going to have black and red, a couple of different logo color changes. So I'm excited to show you guys those if you guys want to get down and check that out. But right now it is January 30th. It's cold here in the Motor City. It is icy. It is probably about, I don't know, what's the old Samsung say? We're at 24 degrees. I guess to follow up a video that I'm actually filming, that I was filming Friday, I filmed a little today, and I have to film one more piece tomorrow. When are you guys using your block heater? This is something I'm talking about in my video. I know a lot of guys have been saying, you know, it's a waste of electricity if you do it. Anything above 15 degrees or above 20 degrees, and I can't say I disagree, but I don't think you're going to be noticing it as much if it was warmer out. I notice a difference between how my truck starts when I don't plug it in versus when I plug it in. It sounds, I don't want to say it sounds rougher. It just sounds real, you know, just, you know what I mean? And then when I started, yeah, it sounds angry. And then when I started, when it's plugged in, it just sounds more, I don't feel as angry. So I think I can notice a difference. And I'm using, I actually brought home this. This is my infrared, and I am took some temps with it not plugged in. I took a temp of the element, I took a temp of the block, and I actually, since I just recently got Forescan, I hooked up Forescan, showed you guys how I connected, and monitored ECT. And ECT was at 25 degrees this morning, not plugged in, and my infrared read 15.6.7 on the actual block. So tonight, it's going to be sitting for over 8 hours. It's going to be plugged in, and my outlet is only active for 4 hours. It comes on at 4 and shuts off at 8. I leave at 7. So my truck really, honestly, is maybe for 3 hours, 10 minutes, 3 hours, 15 minutes, actually feeding, getting juice. So, you know, I remember past repairs where some customers had came in, brought their trucks, and was the complaint was, you know, hey, I keep popping my fuse in the house for the outlet that my truck is plugged into. and I show you guys the pinpoint test. I show you guys in the video the spec with the cord, so it's supposed to be the element, and I go through that, and there's nothing wrong with the truck. So, you know, that leaves it's got to be the house. And, you know, I talk about in the video the importance of making sure you have the right amped circuit for your house, what kind of outlet you're using on the outside. It has to be up to code. It has to be weatherproof. You know, are you using 100-foot freaking extension cord? Come on. No, you want something short. You want something to be close to the house. So there, all these things are going to be, you know, be used in conjunction when using your block heater, because you know you want to be safe. This is something you're plugged to your house. You're living. You know, this is your life. But then you got to, you know, tethered to your truck. So you just want to be safe about it, and you know, I just want to bring awareness to that. But I don't want people to have this weather package on their truck and like, oh my god, I got this cord hanging from the front of my truck. What do I do? Oh Jesus! Oh my gosh, it's a cord. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. I want you to educate yourself. I want you to know, you know, the importance of it. I know DS, he hadn't been plugging his truck in. He's gonna been, we had been talking about it, and he might be starting to plug his truck in. Just when it starts getting to this end of January, middle of February, it's gonna be starting getting typically into like the Arctic temperatures around here, and the shit gets cold. So, you know, when we can keep our truck warm and the oil warm and help keep the oil thin, so we have less wear in the morning, we have better startup, just like I can tell the difference on how it starts. And I think for the longevity, just yeah, and then 540. And I have just, that's a good point. I had just was it yesterday? So it would have been Friday because this is Saturday. Actually spoke on the phone to a rep from Schaefer's, and he is going to put me in touch with their marketing team and maybe somebody in their technical department, because there are some questions I like, some questions I have, and a lot of things I like about their company. For one, they're home here in the USA. They've been around since 1839, and not only are they doing, you know, big time lubricants, but they have some good fuel additives, and fuel for us being a diesel, I feel is something that we have to stay on top of. Like A1, I think out of all the questions I get asked the most, whether it be from the podcast or the videos I'm doing, is, are you running a fuel additive? Are you running this? Are you running this? Are you running this? People are cognitive about it, but I don't think they may know the correct stuff to use. And I'm always repping Motorcraft, just 100% all the time. But, you know, I was talking to DS and he can chime in. It's like,
I'm ready to try something new.
yeah, we're using this. I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily seeing a difference.
Well, I mean, we know it's a great product, but
100%.
But it's not like the hotshot secret guys who are like, oh, it's idling better. Oh, it feels the same to me. Feels exactly the same.
I definitely want to try something for sure. Definitely. But I have questions, because these are some high dollar fuel systems, and the stuff that they're going to add, I just want to make sure it's not going to be acidic. I want to make sure it's going to be, you know, good lubricity. And, you know, do you dump a whole bottle of treatment to a tank, or do you guys actually have like a cool little measuring device?
Well, here's a big factor. That's a big factor for me, because measuring it out with the Ford factory stuff, the additives, is not fun. You know, the way the hotshot secret is, where you squeeze the bottle, it fills the chamber, it measures it for you. That's a big factor.
I think they got to lose that cardboard cap. I'm looking at it right now. That cardboard cap.
It can fall into the tank. Yeah.
Not good. Not good at all. And there was a truck that I had, and I still have the part I found in the tank. I had been to another dealer. They couldn't figure it out. Said they dropped the tank, did all this, that, and the other. I pulled that mother effing tank, and sure as shit, little disc right in the bottom. So when it was sloshing around, man, and it got sucked right to the bottom of the fuel center, check engine light, reduced power, customers WTF.
That's not cool. I don't like it. I don't like having that. I mean, and then on top of that, do you notice anything with the additive? I haven't noticed anything. So.
And don't get it on anything. Holy crap. That shit stinks.
But then you got that bottle that doesn't dispense it, like the other bottles real nice, and you're like left with a half a bottle. Oh,
Now I reached out to Hot Shots and you know, as I've done everybody and told them, you know, what I got going on, and I'd like to talk to them, get them on the podcast, or at least get their products on here and talk about you know, the benefits of using them for the dudes who have the 6 liters and maybe even the 7.3s. They're dinosaurs, but they're still out there and people are running them. What kind of great stuff do you guys have for the Hueys? And more importantly, because really all I care about right now is common rail. You know, what do you guys have for high pressure fuel? What's going to be rolling at 30 plus K PSI? Like I'm talking, you know, longevity.
It's amazing to hear of all these people that are pushing 300,000 miles.
What did you just hear on the phone today? What'd that chick say she had on her 17?
She said over 300K.
Yeah. You heard her story straight up for real.
Yeah.
I got a guy coming to me on Wednesday from New Mexico. He's got over 1.3. His odometer says 99999, and he has to use his trip A to keep calculating his mileage now.
Are you saying that his truck?
What'd you
say?
Say?
That might happen.
Do what?
I was saying I think it was a couple of years ago or this year, some guy drove in a Hyundai Elantra for over 1 million miles. Like he rolled the odometer over to 000.
Damn, wow.
Well, Hyundai just came out and was like, hey, we're going to buy that car back from you. And
for
I
real?
think it was like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't know how many engines I've put in those model cars, and he made it go pretty much beyond anything what I've ever seen those cars at.
What do you think it was?
I mean, so what he did was he was driving, I think it was border to border, like organ or medical delivery of some sort. So, because there's people that have done that, and there's a guy that actually, he did Uber with a Hyundai Kona, and he had over 100,000 miles on it within the first year of him owning that car. And he did border to border Ubering.
Yeah,
we had what?
It's pretty
crazy.
What,
though?
He was in a Scion, and he was, I think that car got wrecked at like 720,000. He fell asleep at the wheel and hit a semi.
Ooh.
So his wife made him retire.
Yeah, I would too, man. Jeez.
You know what though? When you're putting those miles on like that, it's a different thing. Like if you're just gonna go
it's a different kind of mileage. It's not stopping. Yeah. It's not constant.
Yeah,
stopping and starting.
Yeah.
It's easier on. As long as you keep up on the fluids and maintenance on that stuff, it'll definitely last. We had a Ford Ranger, a 98, and it had 980,000 miles.
Damn.
I know.
I think for any engine to run that far, somebody's got to be doing something right.
Yeah, that too. That too, for sure.
I mean, that's something to be said if somebody's running that kind of mileage.
That customer I was talking with the Scion, he ran AMSOIL, and he was in there religiously every 5.
And the one who got 700,000 on it?
Yeah, it was like 720, and the car was still going. He just got into an accident.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
you gotta think too, like how many miles had been on the same engine, transmission. I mean, at some point or another, things break down. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we were putting ball joints and lower control arms in for cars that were like 30, 40K. Now it's you don't see a passenger car unless it's actually been involved in an accident or somebody's winging parts at it that has new lower suspension components. I mean, plain and simple.
Well, also too, you think about a death of a vehicle, is usually not like, oh, the engine went out. It's usually like, oh, we've got 200,000 miles and it's just falling apart.
Yeah.
And the engine still, I mean, it may not run great, but it's still going to run.
Transmission or a rack pinion, and they just don't want to throw the money at it for the mileage on the vehicle.
Yeah. Well, and, cars are made to a T. I used to see it every day where panels weren't even glued together correctly, or like at the factory, they weren't even putting the clips on the hoses. I mean, you look at the quality that they produce these vehicles at, and they're just trying to pump them out as fast as they can. I mean, it's a wonder that most things even make it beyond 100,000 miles. I remember putting engines in it like hundreds of miles or even less.
I had a regular 3.6 in first oil change, first service on it, tire rotation, and it had no air filter in the airbox.
He wanted more horsepower.
Yeah, he didn't take it out. He never put one in.
I can't believe.
So what do they do in that situation? Is that like
Hold him an air filter.
you just put a one that happened to my dentist. He's got a 150, and he's like, I take it to get the oil changed, and they're like, oh, there's no oil filter. So whoever did the oil change last didn't put in an oil filter.
An air filter?
Oil filter. You know, the 2.7's got that cartridge oil filter.
Oh yeah, they
you
did
can
not
put the top,
put one in.
You put it
yeah,
back
you
in.
can put the top on it with no oil filter.
Yeah, my dad has a 2.7. Yeah.
I mean, why do you even need an oil filter? I mean, if you don't put an oil filter on there, it's still gonna run.
Oh,
Yeah, but it'll code for kind of pressure. If it's not getting the kind of pressure that it's supposed to be, it'll see that.
They didn't see nothing though. It didn't. Nobody knew until.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
crazy.
as long as there's nothing really, like, I don't know.
Like it's like it's flowing too much. There's no restriction on it, so the pressure isn't what the PCM wants. So it should flag that even eventually.
You would think.
Well, I mean, if we look at most of the wiring diagrams, and it's just switches at this point, they're really not designed to register like a pressure per se. They're at a fixed pressure rate when they made the sensor, and then once it just makes the, once it overcomes that resistance inside the sensor, it's just a switch that's on and off.
Right.
So even if it was PCM monitored,
yeah, it knows that there's no pressure or is pressure. So
yeah, and you can have like
out of its range.
Yeah, and there are cars that like some of the, I think all of the V8 gas engines from Chrysler have some form of a monitor that sets. So if you run 530 in the oil instead of the 520 or whatever magical unicorn shit they're running in it now, it literally will throw a check engine light, put the truck into limp mode, and say, get your, get it back to the dealer.
Are you serious?
I can confirm that. We've fixed that multiple times from our local tire man.
Yeah.
That's a weird one. That's a weird one because how would they know? How would the computer know if it's cold or different temperatures? The viscosity kind of doesn't have viscosity kind of.
It either uses an oil temperature table or it uses some form of a flow measurement of some sort.
It's a flow rate of some sort. My boss dealt with it. I didn't deal with that.
Okay. And it's pretty trippy. They want you to do all this stupid stuff to keep granted, to keep your warranty, they want it to operate within the certain characteristic, but it's like, there's some things where you're like
that EPA stuff, that 520. I don't know, man. That seems like EPA stuff to me.
They're on the zero. They have 0.20. That's kind of old news now. Now I'm seeing vehicles with 0.16.
0.16?
It's literally water.
What? I ain't even heard of that yet.
Yep.
No kidding.
It's like
it's not a Ford
coming out of the jug. Just
it's not a Ford thing because they're turbocharged. I think Ford still runs a 530 and all the turbo stuff at least.
If it's an EcoBoost, they're still running 530. If it's non-EcoBoost,
530. I mean,
520.
Yeah. Well, and they do that for heat dissipation characteristics.
I wanted to touch back on that block heater right quick, if we could.
What you got? Tell me.
So when I typically run mine, I think it says in the manual, anything over like 3 hours is not like basically worth it or needed because it wastes electricity and it's not going to get it like any hotter. But the way I feel about that is if I can like keep it at that temperature longer, I mean, I'm not leaving it plugged in for days.
No.
But because I'm a little different. My truck's not my everyday driver. I use it when I need to tow something. So it's like if I know I'm going somewhere the next morning, like I'll plug it in the night before, or I'll plug it in like.
Oh, for sure.
Well, that's a good point. Like you can't.
I got these little things I got it from Garbage Freight, and it just goes on your outlet, and it comes with a remote, and so I can just hit my remote from inside the house, and it will like just turn that. It'll make that outlet live. Like
That's
you use it for
awesome.
lamps and stuff. So I shoot that thing from the house if I know it's like early in the morning and I know I'm leaving later. I'll just hit that bad boy and let it heat up. And then to confirm what Aaron says, it's just definitely. It's not growling as much as it is purring, if that makes sense. Just
I could
not
feel
a
you.
lot less. But I was going to
Now-
ask on that temp when you checked the temp of that coolant on the block, what side of the block were you on? Were you on the element side, or did you do it on both sides? I was just curious to see if you saw how much coolant transfer. Like the thermostat can't open; it's not getting that warm.
No,
So,
so like I haven't plugged it in yet. I just did it with it not plugged in, and I
oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I got you.
so
Well, I'd be interested to see at the element, like at the block, and then like complete opposite corner of the block, and see if it's actually transferring well to like the opposite side.
Like is there a convection effect where the hot is displacing the cold?
Exactly.
Because I have to film that tomorrow.
What if you just went ahead, since you know how to install it, just like put another one in a different plug?
Because there's no other hole.
It goes in a,
There's probably not another
like a freeze plug. Or?
Yeah, because there's a threaded hole in the block that this goes into.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of because that's what I did on I have a Jeep Wrangler, and you can just take out a freeze plug and just put in like a Napa, regular element. It'll go in there.
Yeah.
How reliable do you think
it before you drive it?
How reliable do you think that is if that rubber starts to leak? I think it's pretty solid.
What rubber?
On the Jeep.
On the aftermarket one?
Yeah.
No, I mean it was like a regular metal freeze plug. It just had a
rubber thing, and then
like
you tighten it up.
Soldered. No. It was like you pounded it in like a regular freeze plug.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've seen
and then they also the style that goes into your lower radiator hose that you cut your hose. You actually either spread it apart or take out a little section, and it's just like a T, and it's just a little heater, and then you can plug it in.
Yeah.
That's kind of
cool. And then it makes one the dipstick for the oil, but I don't like those because the oil gets baked onto the stick.
Yeah. Now think of it like this. I've seen, and there was actually a kit that you could get for these Arctic weather packages or like Alaskan weather packages that I don't know if it was sanctioned, i.e. an OE part or an OE practice, but there was cars that I was seeing from Alaska and from like Canada area that had literally just these giant orange rubber silicon heater elements glued to the oil pan. Now the argument is, do you want your EOT to be okay, or is that merely just for the fact that it was so damn cold that to run the oil effectively, you needed just an oil heater, an oil pan heater, and not a coolant heater? Because coolant really won't affect oil, even the oil that's in the oil cooler or the oil warmer, because there's no real convection or flow through it, and there's no exchange of oil. It's really just
be like
boiling
radiant
the oil.
Yeah,
and it would just be boiling the oil in the cooler instead of like regulating that heat throughout the block.
Correct.
Now, a block heater, and like a block heater would be for ECT to be read at a certain temperature so that the fuel tables can change, so you're not wasting a bunch of fuel. That might be why it purrs more than it growls. So it's not just trying to dump as much fuel down there or like try to keep the flame front down with just leaning the fuel mixture out a little bit. It kind of goes into that ideology where do you want your EOT, which is good for the engine, to be at a certain point so that the flow characteristics are right, or do you want ECT to be at a certain point so your fuel flow table is different? Because no matter what, that oil has to be up to a certain viscosity to flow the way it needs to, right?
Okay, so you see how we're talking and everything and how we're thinking and da-da-da-da-da. And then you got these ball bags who go out to their car, don't even start it, drop it down and drive and mash it to the floor in 5-degree weather and expecting this thing to just go ahead and do, oh, what the heck? I'm bringing my car to the dealer. It's got to go to warranty. Why is this thing making noise? It shouldn't be making noise in the morning. It's just... What
We got a quick,
fuck?
we got a quick story time. That.
Yeah.
Touch on that. Used to work with a guy that had a Crown Vic 4.6, and he would run 2050 in it for some reason.
Dang.
And it would be
Anti-rod dock.
Damn.
The middle of winter, man. And we'd be getting off work, and he would go out and start his car, and he would peg that thing. I mean, hit it off the rev limiter, dude.
Warming it up.
Thing did not blow up.
What the fuck?
When I asked him, why are you doing that? Oh, it warms up quicker.
Get the fuck out of here.
That's cool, man. He didn't last very long.
Wow.
I would say to kind of add to that too. I work with a guy that I think he finished out an EGR cooler job on this 6.7, and it's a Home Depot truck, so it just sits there and idles and idles and idles and idles and idles and idles and idles. So it's like the fourth one he's put in that truck at this point, right? And he gets done with it, and I see him top off the coolant, and he starts it up. He gives it about 4 seconds of just trying to balance itself out before he just fucking floors it in the shop. And he's just sitting there with this thing just like,
oh,
I'm going,
man.
What? Dude, if I was the customer, when you're like seeing some of these people work, you just kind of have to stare at them and go, did you fall off the stupid truck and hit the beat truck at the same time? Or were you just run over by both and then left to die in the road? How do you do that?
Dude put the triangle hole in the circle hole when he was a little kid.
The square peg in the triangle hole after it wouldn't fit through the round hole.
It's funny.
I think
with their
oh, what?
So Grasshopper, the lawn equipment company, on their zero turns, they have square, like for the bagging system, it's a square peg that goes into a round hole. Back to my landscape days, way back.
Way back.
Technically, we're not wrong.
Way back when. I think it would be a real good time to pause for something I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, trying to implement just kind of a pay homage to some of the lost ones we've had for our industry. A big shout out to Diesel Tech Ron. He is kind of why I'm kind of doing what I'm doing. You know, I saw what he was doing and how big of impact he was having on the Powerstroke community, on the West Coast. And then we unfortunately lost him. And I keep in contact with his oldest son. He just recently actually moved to Michigan, so that's kind of cool. But I'll put some links in the description for those of you who do not know who Diesel Tech Ron is. He is an older gentleman, not older gentleman, probably early 50s at the time, and was straight up his way of delivering how to repair these Powerstrokes, and specifically the 6-liter. I think he did a couple of 6.7 videos, but he did a lot of 6-liter, bulletproof oil coolers and EGR coolers and Fickum diagnostics, and just a lot of good information. And you guys got to check his stuff out. And another Ford tech, his channel is actually called Senior Master Tech. His name is Rusty Bunn. He lost his battle with some cancer, but was also an awesome tech. Has got some really great 6-liter cab removal videos and doing head gaskets in chassis. Like, I'm always pulling the cab. So to see a dude do it with the cab on, he did a time lapse. You guys, I'll put a link in the description to him, so you guys can check him out. But I think to remember the dudes who kind of paved the way for us with diagnostics and just helping in the Powerstrokes, I think is we got to remember those dudes just to remember them and pay tribute to them, because if we didn't follow them, we kind of wouldn't be where we are here talking about trucks and how they affect us and how we take care of them. And that's what it's all about. It's helping people, and that's what he did. So thanks, DTR.
Yeah.
RIP, buddy. See you on the other side. Rusty Bun, you too, bud. But I think that follows suit with a lot of stuff that you'll see on this channel, with the videos and people that are reaching out, and the comments that come in with the videos that I put up on Fridays and Tuesdays, and the podcast. I think I've got a lot of great comments on the podcast, especially with our oil talk between DS and Matt, and them going back and forth. A lot of people really like to see them two talk. And the last video that I put up on Tuesday of the end of January about DS's 2026-7, a lot of comments on low oil, people actually going out and checking their oil. I got a couple of emails where people sent me their picture of their oil dipstick, asking what my thoughts are on cetane booster. Just really good engagement. And I think if you guys would like, go check those comments out, because people are listing part numbers, people are listing actually, let's go to that really quick and see. Just really good information that I think other people would find interesting, just to compare and contrast. Because
Yes, did you chalk that up to just break in then, or you haven't had any issues since, correct?
You know what? I need to get out there and check it. But when I went in and we changed the oil, it wasn't low.
Mm-mm.
So I think, and I checked it a couple times and confirmed it wasn't burning. But I've been running it a couple times during snow, and I haven't.
You've been working
checked
it.
So
Things
I've
haven't
been
been
working
sitting. You've been working it.
yeah. So
I
I
think
mean,
How much since I filled your def up, because we filled it to the top? How far do you think your def is at now from me filling it to where you're currently sitting with you
it
working
probably
Half?
used no, I probably used a quarter, but I haven't really looked.
it? Okay.
It's not
okay.
using so much to where I gotta really worry about it. It's probably gonna stay at oil changes.
Okay.
But I am hauling some weight. You're probably getting close to gross vehicle weight rating, but
Because I've been
that's
hearing people who've been hauling these things that these newer 6.7s have just been drinking the DEF.
you know what?
Drinking it.
That truck with those
Definitely.
430 gears, it's never really labored.
That's one thing we should have asked Felix.
430 gears.
If he 430 gears. If he
He's got a 410.
yeah, but if he was drinking DEF, because he still has all his
He's
stuff.
he's a 19.
Yeah, he's a 19, but I mean
Those
with 100.
19s,
Car hauler.
those 19s drink less.
Car hauler, it definitely.
Yeah, Zach, we had on a dude last week, in the middle of the week. This guy from Florida drives from Florida to Indiana, picks up a load, and then drives to Washington. He comes out to you. He's got a 2019 350. Guess how many miles he got on it?
I'm gonna push probably between 75 at the very lowest, and then
190.
Oh my god,
Dude, I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
what's
dude.
he hauling? Like carcasses or something?
No, he's hauling like trailers and like RV trailers. Dude had a notebook just like this. Boom.
Oh, you're talking about Felix?
Yeah. When he changes oil, when he changes trans fluid, when he changes fuel filters, when he changes flat tire, his ball joint, his brakes. I mean, everything to a T, just boom, 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 boom. I was really
That's
impressed.
a customer.
I was
That's
really
a customer
impressed.
to have, man.
100 for sure. Like what he did. And that just struck the thing in my head. So the last job I got on Friday was a 19 550 cab chassis. Said it was it died while driving and started and was running rough. So I'm like, all right, let me go out to it, see if I'm going to have to tow it in, see if it's got battery power, just, I'm going to start the thinking process, over the weekend. I go out to it and I open the door and there is a letterhead of the company. Dudes, it's all nicely spaced and typed, giving me, I mean, more than enough information. And I'm like, you know what? Left me his name, his email, his phone number. I'm calling this dude. I call him, tell him who I am. I'm the technician working on the vehicle. And I told him, the scenario. I wanted to get a preliminary. But I said my reasoning for calling was I wanted to thank you for this very detailed documentation of what the driver said, what you experienced, what happened at the tow truck when he arrived, this. I was blown away. He kind of chuckled and I said, I never see this. So for you to, acknowledge this information to me, I said, that makes me, helps me aid in my diagnostic process. And I thank you. And, maybe your truck's going to get done faster now. Thank you.
Yeah. How many times working in Dealerville, or, I don't know if anybody here has ever had independent experience, but like, you can't get some people to buy water for their freaking, just to drink. You can't even get them to like give up the ghost when it comes to like, hey, so I understand you're having this low power concern, and I understand, this is like something you've been experiencing for quite a while. You also have an air filter that is a brick and not a filter. I mean, can we start with that? No, just do the warranty. Just do the warranty. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ain't me, man. I hate that feeling that people like the service advisor or whatever is afraid to put a part on your car, like just a filter. He's like, well, we can go another 2 weeks on this filter.
Well, if you don't want to do it,
we're gonna take this filter right to the limit. Like,
just change the motherfucking filter, man.
Exactly. My thought process is it doesn't matter. These trucks are like calibrated for an efficient airflow based on what's going through this filter at a clean state. You're literally starving this thing of air, and you're complaining that it's something that is, inherent to the truck or something to that effect. And you're like, you have to start with a baseline vehicle. Like, does it stop, start, steer? And if you can't do any of those, why are you even trying to get anything out of a warranty? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't not contribute and then expect everything in return.
I tell customers, I said, it's like trying to breathe with your hand over your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how many of them actually try that.
I mean, and then you get some that, like A-Rod has, man, that they're just like to the T. Awesome. They know what was going on. I have a guy that when I was at Genesis, he was all over it. Like, man, like I used to drive this Volvo that I could feel when the sway bar link was actually going bad, because I could also feel like the lateral shift in this bushing. And I'm looking at him like, okay, and driving his, $60,000 car that he just bought. It's like, okay, I can see what he's getting at, but like, could you tone it back with the trying to be smart talk? But that guy was like one of the best customers that I've ever had. Yeah, he was like persistent with what he was seeing and what was going on, but he was more than understanding and at least tried to communicate as effectively as he could. He wanted this car, he wanted to own it and keep it as like a daily driver. And exactly. And that's what we want out of our truck customers. Like, you use this thing more than you use your bed at home sometimes. Like, these trucks are some people's livelihoods, and we're here to keep them on the road for them. And it's like, we just need more of those kind of customers than we do the other kind, honestly.
Unfortunately, I see it with a lot of my customer base. That threw me off. I just got a message, sorry. With my customer base, a lot of them are like, cars are like appliances. They literally have them for like 5 years or less. And so like sometimes they're, just do it, or they're just, just leave it. And it's kind of 50-50, but I see a lot, oh, it's a lease. It's getting traded in.
Okay.
So it's just like that's like, number one, like, well, a lot of this basic maintenance stuff, like you're still required to take care of, like on a lot of your lease agreements. Not all of them, but some of them. So you're still going to get charged, and then you're going to get charged what they want to charge you at that point because they got you.
You know, and what we work on, you know, these trucks are not just like, I don't think I've ever seen a truck go on a lease. And if you are, it's usually because you're like bigwig of a company and you're driving around a company car.
You mean a Super Duty or like a 150?
I've seen some F-150s and stuff, but it's mostly the Super Duties that you never see them as like rental cars. Or
them motherfuckers there. You don't lease them things.
You can lease 150s, but you ain't really leasing no Super Duty.
But I just need to lease this tractor for 3 months. Then I'll give it back completely brand new. Like, yeah, great.
So here's a good comment from the video that I did with DS's maintenance. Marco Ramirez V says, honest question. I thought you weren't supposed to rotate the front tires like that due to the tire being traveling at 70 miles an hour in only one direction, and then you swapping it, and it can cause internal damage.
Why did you read it like that, bro?
Huh?
You're reading it, giving him a hard time, giving the commenter a hard time.
Huh? I don't know. Have you guys ever heard that before? I've
heard
that before.
Directional tires, but I've never heard of what he was saying. I've never heard of the bead being disrupted by making it go a different way. If your bead is moving because you flipped your tire, now it's going a different way, then you need a new tire.
A bead's a bead.
Right, but I guess it only would apply for specifically a directional tire that is only supposed to rotate one way, but I don't think Continental.
That's what I'm saying. Directional tire. I've never heard of a multi-directional tire having a problem with the bead.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you know, the reason why they rotate in a certain direction or they have a directional arrow is not necessarily that, you know, I guess in the ye olden times before I was even capable of holding a wrench, if you did rotate them in the opposite direction with a directional tread pattern, something would happen to the belts or to like the internal cord structure of a tire. But
Never heard
you know,
of that.
modern advances don't cause that. I mean, if they rotate backwards, you're just losing the grip functionality that's inherent with the tire design.
With a directional tire?
Yeah.
If it were a directional tire, which...
So you're talking, Zach, you're talking like old like belt like bias ply tires? Is that what you're talking? Yeah.
Yeah, or like, you know, first generation directional stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Check this one out. This guy comments, he says, Workshop Manual 303-01C. Damn, he's dropping it like that. Diagnosis and testing, oil consumption test, step 7. Oh, man. Specifies 1 quart per 900 miles is considered normal. Any less than that, there's a problem. 1 quart per 3,100 miles is well within spec. And then this happens. Then he says this. Aaron, have you called into the hotline asking about regen information on your personal 2020? I think we've spoken before. I'm like, I'm like, are you serious?
It's probably not my truck.
No, it was mine.
Oh, was it?
He's like, I remember speaking to a technician named asking about regen information on his own personal 2020 6.7. I'm like, ain't that about a beat? And I remember talking to a dude and he sounded super cool. And I really wanted to like tell him.
See if he wants to get on the podcast.
Information, you know, but obviously we can't
I
talk
don't know. That
because he's on a
guy on
secure
the
line.
podcast, Jesus.
I don't know. He might be a cool dude.
Oh, you mean get the hotline guy?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I thought you meant I thought you meant the comment. I thought you meant the commenter who's like,
oh no,
you can't. What did he say?
Bring them all.
Oh, you can burn 900 a gallon for every 900.
Oh no, that's in the workshop manual. He was quoting the workshop manual.
Yeah, he was quoting the workshop manual. That's interesting to hear. And now, is that just during the break-in period, or is that all at all times? For
Well,
the
let's see.
Truck?
Let's see. What did he say? Hold on.
I was going to say, do you have it in front of you? Can you pull it up?
30301C. 303. Let's see here. I'm going to 2020.
No, I asked you earlier, DS, if you get some snow, you going to take that 450 plowing tonight?
Yeah, I've been favoring the 450 for plowing, even though it's ridiculous. Like I got a 250 out here, I could use that.
Yeah.
But
so easy.
I don't know, man. It's just
what do you
honestly,
say?
you
250's
probably get
quicker.
into some.
01C.
Is it quicker?
Diagnosis and
It's got
testing.
pros and
Probably
cons.
turn
I mean,
Step 7.
there's definitely
on that,
pros and cons.
450.
You say what?
Yeah. You can
What'd
turn.
you say?
It's a better turning radius on that 450 than your 250, isn't it?
They're pretty close. I think the 450 cuts harder, but is longer. It probably turns a little tighter, but it's so long that it
250
cuts.
a long.
250 is a short bed crew cab.
Gotcha.
It
What
can do
year
some.
were we
It can
looking
do
at,
some different
A-Rod?
stuff.
Huh?
What year were we looking at for this spec?
I was looking at 2020. I got 30301, and he said oil consumption, step 7. I don't see a step 7. Description and operation.
I know for
Oh, wait,
lot of
maybe I
our
got to
boats-
go down to actual oil consumption.
it says that a
Camera.
quart of oil 1,000 miles is acceptable.
Oh, okay, here it is here. Okay, oil consumption test. Drain the engine oil, remove engine oil filter, install a new manufacturer specified oil filter, make sure the vehicle is positioned on level surface, refill oil pan to a level 1 liter less than the specified fill limit. So 1 quart less than a specified using manufacturer specified oil. Run the engine for 3 minutes if hot or 10 minutes if cold. Allow for a 20-minute drain back period and then record the oil level shown on the oil level indicator. Place a mark on the back side of the oil level indicator noting the oil level location. Add the final 1 quart to complete the normal oil fill. Restart the engine and allow it to idle for 2 minutes. Shut the engine down. Note: both marks should be very close to the min-max upper and lower limits or the upper and lower holes on the oil level indicator. These marks will exactly measure the engine's use of oil with a 1 quart differential between the marks. After a 20-minute drain back period, record the location of the oil level again. Mark the oil level indicator with the new oil level location. Demonstrate to the customer that the factory calibrated marks on the oil level indicator are where the oil should fall after an oil change with the specified fill amount. Explain, however, that this may vary slightly between the min-max or the upper and lower holes on the oil level indicator. It says record the mileage. Advise the customer that the oil level indicator readings must be taken every 200 miles or weekly using the revised marks as drawn. Remind the customer that the engine needs a minimum 20-minute drain back for an accurate reading, that the oil level indicator must be firmly seated in the tube prior to taking the reading. When the subsequent indicating readings demonstrate a full quart has been used, record the vehicle mileage. The mileage driven should not be less than 900 miles. The drive cycle the vehicle has been operated under must be considered when making this calculation. It may be necessary to have the customer bring the vehicle in for a periodic oil level indicator reading to closely monitor oil usage. Wow.
That's a lot.
So
That was
So they're
very, very interesting.
they're having you establish the actual dipstick,
The
to make
actual dipstick.
oil level to make sure the dipstick is accurate.
Guess what?
Yeah.
We just thought of a brand new video. I'm making a note right now. That.
I mean,
Ooh, sorry.
no, you're fine. I was going to say Yeah, to really kind of summarize it, they basically want you to drain the engine completely for what it's worth, let it sit there for 20 minutes or so, and then fill it up, put go 1 quart under spec, mark that on the dipstick, add that quart, mark that on the dipstick, and then just have the customer drive it after making sure the oil level is actually there. Because what they might be seeing is just that drain back not happening, right?
What's interesting about that, say you're getting you a brand new Powerstroke and you pull out the dipstick, you can look for that mark. This guy was doing the oil consumption test at some point. So, and then it's like, how do you get compensated for this 20-minute drain back? Like,
you're
if you're a technician and they're telling you, like, we all know that the 6.7 does not need 20 minutes to drain back. It needs
right.
The way that they kind of expect us to work is that we get one vehicle, and for that one vehicle, the entire time it's at the dealership, that technician's working on it. But in reality, in order for a technician to make money, he has to be flying cars in and out the door with tickets that are more than just, hey, can you change my oil for $120?
Correct.
Like, they don't want you to do these kinds of things. Therefore, they discourage it with both the practice and what is actually required. Most technicians, at least the ones that I was around for most of growing up, are just like,
think about it on the customer side. How many customers are going to come back every 200 miles and wait 20 minutes for it to drain down for you to check the oil?
Correct. And I'll even be guilty myself. Like, okay, dude, like if you got your DSs, he brought his truck in for oil change January 1st, 21. We changed his oil. I didn't let you saw the video.
Yeah, we did both. When we changed that oil, we waited the 20 minutes and we waited the 5 minutes, and it was the same. In the 20 minutes or the 5 minutes for the 6.7. Now, if it was a 2.7, it's a different story. That's a start-stop type of situation. So that's a whole different thing. But
yeah, that's when I first heard about the oil issue, and he texted me and asked me to check mine. I had changed my factory oil out pretty early, like 2,200 miles. But I mean, I Rotella T6 540 from work, so I changed it with that, and I checked it stone cold. I checked it right after I shut it off. I checked it after it sat, and it was all
right. So let me say this. You are talking about the Shell Rotella T6 and how no matter what, like when you check that oil, if it's hot, if it's cold, if it's whatever, it's always pretty much the same amount. Yeah. Versus, I wonder if it was like a 15W40. Does it get more? Does it creep up the stick as it warms up because it's a 15W40, or does it the same thing? Stays the same?
It's not really like tranny fluid where there's like,
hey. That's general neutral shift juice. What you're talking about, man? We gotta keep it clean on here, man.
What? Who, me?
He's talking about calling it tranny fluid and shit. No, we can't be talking like that.
You can't say tranny fluid?
No, that's general neutral shift juice. We gotta keep it clean.
You can't say tranny. We can't say tranny fluid.
It's not like it's gonna.
Oh no!
It's the DM's giggle. That shit cracks me up.
Oh my god!
Oh, it's neutral. It's neutral fluid.
Keep up this trans fluid would.
Well, you know what though? My gear oil does that, in my hydro gear, in my
gear oil is gonna do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So not so much. Even 15W40 won't do it.
No.
I can't wait to change my oil. No. I don't know what I'm gonna. If Schaefer's is gonna send me something or a discount.
Your truck is leaking.
I know. Me too. I keep cleaning it off. When I was under there today doing the video, I was like, "Oh, check my oil account." I just reached out. I just sent him an emoji waving because it was like 2 weeks since I reached out to him. Just I'm not trying to be a bugaboo with these people. I just hey. Don't forget about me. I'm
trying to get a hold of
here. The hot shot secrets, dude.
Oh,
additives.
Have you ever used oil?
Pardon me?
Have any of you guys ever used Arch oil?
Yeah. I got a video on it in a 6 liter. It was
Used to
not
use it with my
smoking
7.3
afterwards.
all the time.
Yeah, big.
I don't know. I
Archer
don't
was a
know
big
if I
one
would.
for
I
that
don't
in the
know if I would
Hueys.
run it on a. I don't know if I would run it on a 6.7.
It's not. I mean, unless Archer they have
I
one for common rail, but I think
I
Archer.
think they have. Going back to that fuel additive, I run the Diesel Power Plus, and I run the silver in the summer and the white in the winter. I know the white, I believe, does. It's a 80-ounce bottle I get, and it'll do 250 gallons. And then going back to how you guys were saying, like how you measure it out, I get those little paint cups at the auto value down the road. They're like $1 for 2 of them or whatever. And you just put that, they have the ounces right on there. Those work out pretty nice to
Are they
measure stuff out
reusable,
with.
or you chuck them
'Cause I know
away?
what you mean, like those. What's that?
Are they reusable, or do you chuck them away?
Oh no, they're reusable. They're
Oh.
plastic.
Oh, okay.
I just use them for a lot of other things too. Like I got some 2-strokes, so I'll use them for oil, and I'll use them for other stuff. So eventually, they get nasty, and I'll just get new ones. But
nasty.
that's that was the big thing with the arch oil. That arch oil had like its self-measuring bottle, but it did have that little like white thing that I guess the Ford one has too. And I always hated those. I would throw those things away right away.
That is
Those things were a pain in the
about as
butt.
useful as a how do I put this politely? An ant with a
It's on
rock on its back.
Have you heard anybody
Yeah.
using 0W40 in their diesel?
Not really in my climate. Not around. I mean, you know where I'm just northern Ohio, right by Lake Erie.
I had a
So,
guy from
yeah, we get-
Texas question why he went to the dealer, and he said he brought the service manager out and questioned the technician, questioned the service advisor, wanted to know why they put 1540 in his truck when the cap says 1030 and 540. And all three of them said that this is what we run in the diesels in Texas because of the heat. And he was asking me what I thought, and I'm like,
it sounds like they don't carry that's all they kind of carry from their vendor.
That's called being lazy, because I had a truck in, I shit you not, on the sticker it said 1540 serviced by Jiffy Lube. And I about threw up in the back of my throat. Like, why in the hell are you taking this $80,000 tractor machine to a Jiffy Lube?
To Jiffy. Hey,
I think I about shit a brick.
Must be a toughie. Better take it to Midas.
Oh.
But back to the 0W40, man. I don't know, man. I looked into it, and it didn't seem like something I wanted to do.
Mm-mm.
The what?
Like 0.4 need for temperatures, like
what
such and such. To
oh,
such
what the range was?
So,
it's interesting because the range for the 040 was like you could run it all the according to Ford manual. You could run it all the way hot to the higher temperatures, or you could run it into the lower.
Now it says right here for the lubricants for specifications for my truck. It says right here 540, 1030, and 1540.
It does say it.
It says right here. Right here.
It does say that.
It does say 1540 for your truck.
I'm looking right at
workshop.
Yeah, workshop manual specification: displacement, bore, stroke, firing order, compression ratio 15.8.
Does it have like a side note next to that 1540 saying like if other two viscosities aren't available, 1540 is acceptable? Change it.
No, but I think if you look at the temperature range available for the 1540 is not as favorable. Whereas if you're in Texas, maybe it doesn't get cold. For 1540, it's not supposed to be cold.
How much do you think the engine weighs without accessory drive components?
1,200.
981 pounds.
Dang. I was gonna say 900 too. I figured with all that oil, give it the extra couple 100 pounds.
Well, think about it like this: with motor oil specifications, it's more for emissions specifications. So like you want to run a thinner weight oil because of the frictional losses, but we all know that a thinner weight oil doesn't really help out, especially for high load, high horsepower applications, because you're really just doing a disservice. You're displacing a thinner oil altogether. But the thicker the oil you want, you want the most lubrication possible, which you don't really need that for the clearances.
There's such tight tolerances in some of these that it does take a 0.20 or a 0.16 to even get in between there to lube it.
Yeah.
But that's not on bigger stuff. That's those smaller.
Yeah, that's all passenger vehicles. You don't want to see
with
a 0.16 on a workhorse.
With the 0W40, you're supposed to get the same 40 weight protection at operating temperature, but the the zero weight flow. But like, what is a zero weight? What does all that mean? Like,
it's comparing
it's zero
basically.
when it's
rated
viscosity.
At 0 when it's the oil's ability to flow.
I know that, but it's 0 when it's cold and it's 40 when it's hot. But does that mean that it's already at 40? Like, it just doesn't change as much. Like, it's almost at a 40 weight cold, and then it warms up. It's still the same weight as it was when it was cold. It's not like thinning down, because it's not going to get thicker as it warms up.
Think of it like this: you use
first W is winter. That's your winter weight.
Yeah.
So if it's 0, you're running 0, and then as you run it, it's getting thicker.
Yeah. It would almost be like having.
Is it though? Is it? Okay, but is the oil getting thicker when it runs, or is it just not thinning out? Because if you think about a 15W40, as it gets warm, it gets thinner, right? It starts off thicker, and then as it warms up, it gets thinner. So it's at a 40. But a 40 weight, a 5W40 weight, is not gonna start off thick. It's not gonna get thicker, is it? It's gonna be thin, and it's still gonna be thin when it gets warm. It's not gonna
it starts
thicken
out
up.
So it starts out thin. The molecules are flowing at a 5 weight. 5. And then as you're getting up to operating temp, you're going to be running at 40. So
yes.
I mean, to say it's not really thickening or thinning out.
It's the operating characteristics of the oil itself.
Right. But what I'm saying is, does it really get thicker to a 40 weight? I think it's not thinning down. It's just not going to thin down like it does. It's not like it's going to get thicker like a 40 weight.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that it changes density. I think it's the way that they measure the flow characteristics. So like what you were saying, it's essentially at this temperature reading, which is within a spectrum placed by, whatever SAE spec it's at, or ILSAC spec, I should say. They sit there, or API. That's it, right? Yeah, API.
Yeah.
The API spec for that oil to flow at a certain rate.
API.
And then at the hot temperature, the 40 weight flow is what does 40 weight flow at this operating temperature or within this operating range. So like we can have a 5 weight oil flow at colder temperatures, which is really good, because then that way we're not having to lose the inertia from the stroke to pump the oil. It's more for efficiency's sake. Whereas the hotter the oil gets, it needs to flow at a certain rate of a thicker oil so that it doesn't eat itself alive when it's trying to overcome the expansion clearance losses.
Right.
But my thing is, like, how would they achieve that? It's like one side says, well, it gets thicker when it warms up to be like a 40, but I think it's just,
well, like he said, it's not really getting thicker. It's just what the flow is at whatever temperature.
Right.
So like this oil has this good of characteristics and flows like this.
Alternate engine oil for extremely cold climates. To improve engine cold start performance, we recommend that you use the following alternate engine oil in extremely cold climates where the ambient temperature reaches -22 below. Engine oil SAE 0W40.
So that's the climate range.
Yeah,
negative
we're
22.
not
Just
we're
to
not
say
getting that
it is on
cold.
the positive
No.
side.
But what is the like?
With it being a 40 weight, I would imagine it would be good up into like 100 or 100, whatever normal operating is.
What's really weird too is like if you look at the specifications of Shell Rotilla 5W40, and then like I think does Shell Rotilla have a 0W40? I think they do. I think the cold pour point
Dude,
for both is
I've
literally
never.
the cold pour point for 0W40 and 5W40 is like negative 50
Okay,
degrees
check this
on
out.
both.
I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna put this up on the thing
Hold
so you
on,
guys
me.
can check this out because I actually found the chart, and this is what I was trying to see. I don't know if you guys can check that out. Let me blow it up here. Excuse me.
Yeah, so
see?
the 040 goes up to the same temperature as the 540.
Let me go to the top here. All right.
And then 1540 is only.
So we got
There
normal
we go.
usage. Normal usage is going to take us down to 0 and to 100. So at 0 degrees, we're going to be a 10 weight, and operating temperature we're going to be at 30. And then you can see, so it looks like what? Would you concur that it's 5W40 is going to take us to the same temps as 0, but it looks like 0 would even go further?
Yeah, it's like 0
Yeah,
goes.
so it looks all the temps, or I'm sorry, all the weights are going to be good on the top end to the same. Even the 1030 is going to be good to the top end to the same. But it's
Oh, this
the
is
only
different.
difference I see with the 540.
Different
Well,
language.
and
That's what it
think of
was.
it like this too: the lower the weight oil is usually reserved, and like you said, and like the owner's manual says, that the lower weight oil is reserved for cold weather characteristics. I mean, let's say you're living in Alaska where the average temperature during the winter is like no more than a couple of degrees above 0, or whatever Arctic region temperatures are. And so
Right.
you need something that's going to flow like basically water at sub-zero temperatures.
I
Well,
like
need
that
that.
you don't.
540, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so you wouldn't want to run 040 when you're hauling a load up a mountain, going from high desert country into just sheer mountain territory. Like you'd be asking to have crank bearings go wing.
Right.
The research I've done on the 040 says that or suggests that like the 040 is gonna, because you got to think anything that's a 40, there's really a range in that 40. Like there could be a 0W4, or let's just say 5W40. One 5W40 could be closer to like almost as on the 5W30 side, where another 5W40 could be on. So that 40 range is actually a big range based on brand or whatever formulation. There's actually a big kind of area in there, but a 0W40 is gonna barely get into a 40, and as soon as you start having like fuel dilution and things like that,
Yeah.
it actually derates down to a 30 quicker versus a 5W40, which is gonna still be a 40 weight toward the end of its service life when it's getting ready to be changed.
Right.
So
basically what people
but
need to
the
do
6.7,
they just need to
the
see
6.7 can run on a.
just run whatever oil. Most people, like you said, fall into a severe duty. So figure out what weight you need to run and figure out your climate. I think most people are going to be running 540. And then, like you said, people that are always running up in Alaska or at Canada, they run
If
them
you
hard
live
up.
there,
Yeah.
They
Driving up on the
can agree.
Coca-Cola.
maybe 040, for our northern boys there. So
French
They
fries
just-
and gravy, sir.
But as far as that guy
Delicious right
going 15 truck in Texas, I mean, yeah, seeing that and seeing that it's acceptable from Ford, I mean, at the temp that they're at, that might be acceptable then.
Yeah, because realistically, I mean, they are never going to get down to 20 degrees.
I mean, maybe northern
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah. Well, my wife's from
But
Oklahoma, and even then, it's kind of hit or miss. It really depends on what inclement weather is happening at the time. It could be like
Yeah.
like you said, northern Texas changes a lot. Oklahoma's pretty well four
But
seasons, but it's weird
It's
four
but
cold.
at
seasons.
the
It's cold in the desert. There's a lot of land
but
out
at
there.
the at
So
the end of the day, that's terrible customer service to like
yeah,
not offer the
100%.
5W40
Yeah,
for that
100%.
guy and just say it. Like
It,
like come on.
that's overstepping the boundary, man. You're basically, I'm going to be blunt here. You're basically sticking your dick in the gas tank at that point. It's not your truck. It's not your baby at all. Like, get the hell away from it. Like,
Which
do what the
brings
customer wants.
which brings to a good advertisement. Make sure to check out my oil change dealios I got over here at Bill Brown Ford. Check them out at billbrownford.net or book your
Fleet
service appointment with me at the Fleet Center. I got Mark's been up there, half dozen times. I got dudes coming all over. I'm doing oil
Hey,
change.
I like the Motorcraft 540. It ain't bad,
I'm doing oil
Ain't bad at
changes,
all.
regular oil changes, diesel oil at $99.95. And if you are the dudes that want to run full synthetic, you're going to get that for $1.75. So if it's something you guys want to check out, come and see me. You got a warranty repair you want to take care of and don't want to go see your local dealer, most likely I'll be able to get it covered for you, check it out, and knock out some maintenance for you. So
It's
definitely,
crazy how many hotshot.
yeah,
It's crazy how many hotshot people are coming from like all around the country
yeah.
to come see you.
And that's really like what is showcasing these Ford trucks. People want to see the 300,000 miles. People want to see a 19 with 193,000 miles on it. People want to see a 13 with 1.3 million miles on it.
Yeah.
That's a story in itself. That is, what is this dude doing? We need to tell these people. We need to get that out in the public and like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about buying a 6.7. This dude, oh my gosh, this dude just got 1.3 million on his. Like, oh my gosh, I got to get one. I think having just that community of hotshot people running these vehicles and using them on a daily to feed their family, get commerce from point A to point B, whether it's in medical supplies or whatever. I mean, I think that is what really, that's what William Clay Ford Jr. needs to be commenting on. That is, let's get these hot shot, let's get a group, let's get a Zoom, let's get forget this COVID stuff when it gets over. Let's meet and greet with these hotshot dudes, or let's meet with these people who are really using these trucks. Mark, the daily driver, me, daily driver, we're not really using our trucks. Let's get the dudes who are using his trucks. I'm talking tow truck dudes, people mom and pop, small businesses. These are the trucks that they're depending on. Without this truck, they cannot make money. Like, I cannot drive that home. Like, how important this machine is to this company and for it to perform. And whatever piece of information Zach, Mark, myself, DS, whatever we can pass on to others who we're talking, or who he interacts with, people on his channel, or the customers Zach gets a hold of, or Mark when he's doing his maintenance on these vehicles coming into his fast lube facility. These things people don't know, and the basis and fundamentals of this channel is to teach and educate and have a little weird comedy, I guess, because sometimes I'm funny looking. And we got good dudes on here telling real stories, and we're not any smoke and mirrors. And it's just I think something I want people to be a part of, and I love having guests on coming through and talking about it, because it's an hour of us just unraveling, and somehow we always come back talking about oil.
Oh yeah.
DS loves it.
You know,
I love it.
I
Yeah.
heard something interesting today. Someone said you can never, or it's really hard to find a good mechanic. You know, that was an interesting statement.
I hear
was
that
made.
all the time.
You know,
Like I
it's-
said, you gotta trust your tax man, your barber, and your mechanic.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know that
trust your tax man, your barber, and your mechanic, man.
When
Any
we,
one of them can screw you.
when we were
I'm two of those. I'm not the tax man, but I am two of those.
we were having lunch, and she's like, "Yeah, my mechanic's good, but you know, he can't do that electrical stuff." It's like, wow.
Oh
You know what
yeah,
I
I
mean?
know. Electrical is not his strong suit, and like when she said it, like I'm like, what? I'm like, everybody has to do electrical. Everybody,
Yeah.
What is 50% of our repairs involved?
everybody.
That
Or
that,
your
re-
IDS.
that reminds me when I
My
was a
gosh.
young guy. When I was a young guy working on cars in my garage, I used to kind of run a little shop out of my mom's garage in the backyard, and I'm a young dude. I'm like 17 years old, 16. Man, I forgot to tighten up this lady's wheels. And the
Oh,
guys
no.
who car it was blind. He was blind. He couldn't see, but she drove for him, and she had like a Jeep Cherokee. She comes in. I'm doing brakes. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing the brakes. And then she calls me like a couple days later. She's like, my wheel came off. She's like, the lug nuts were loose and the last lug nut was on and it
Oh
almost popped off.
my
It's like,
gosh.
I barely made it to the shop. And he was like, oh, he must not be husky enough to tighten up the wheels. And I'm just like, yeah, if that's what you want to roll. No, I just didn't. Because I didn't have any air tools. You had to like put it tighten them up, and then you had to put the weight on it, and then like go make sure you remember to
He wasn't husky enough.
He must not have been husky enough to tighten the wheels. Like, that's your security policy though. When you work in the streets and you work on cars, and someone says, "Hey, I gotta go to the bank." Yeah, go to the bank, but I tell you what, you ain't gonna make it nowhere else. You're gonna make it to the bank and back here. You go. If you try to take off, just realize I didn't even tighten your wheels. So
Hey, you need to tighten my wheels.
I put them on tight enough for you to make it to the
Cash
bank
on
and back.
demand.
God, I worked at a place where we did this guy's I think we were doing ball joints because he had a lifted GMC truck, and part of that job they had to pull the axle nut out. Well, either he just threaded it back on by hand and tightened it or what, but he made it 2 blocks
Two
Oh,
blocks.
Yeah.
on 37s.
oh,
You said
Yeah.
the axle nut?
The
So what
bearing, the,
happened?
hub,
Yeah.
the whole hub bearing assembly, because the axle nut compressed everything. It went,
Yeah.
Fire went.
Dang.
yeah.
Dude, one
Not
time I
good.
was walking down the street with my little brother, and there's a car that comes driving down the street. The wheel pops off the car. The car slams on the ground, and the oil comes out of the engine. And I'm like,
Uh,
and the lady gets out, and she goes, "They told me not to drive the car."
Oh my God.
oh,
I guess
man.
I should've listened.
They told me not to drive the car.
Yeah, I got one. So this guy came in. He had a like a drivability concern. It was this old, like, man, what was that thing? Rusted out, like Chrysler, like an old Chrysler 300, like the original body style.
Ooh, yeah.
He was
Before,
about a running
before it was
issue.
a
He was
300C.
What's that?
Before the 300C, when it's just a 300.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing was rusted, man. And this guy, he was talking about what the heck, something to drivability, like a skip or something. And it would hesitate. That's what he was saying. And then he went to go leave, and he mashed on the gas instead of the brake. He mashed on both of them, and he drove through the friggin' door.
Oh,
Oh my God.
He hit the building, dude.
What?
Apparently, he like he did try to hit the brake because it blew a brake line and there was a trail of brake fluid. But
Oh,
he
wow.
must have double.
Damn.
Like, how was there a trail of brake fluid? His brake line blew from the rust.
Yeah,
Oh, his
yeah.
brake line
Yeah.
must have gave out.
So I'm guessing he hit the gas on accident, panicked, slammed on the brake, blew his line,
And
then
kept going
continued
forward.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot.
I got a story about you trying to hit the brakes or you trying to slow a truck down. So I worked at a shop where the entrance to the end of the shop was basically like a 45-degree incline, right? This guy had I think it was like a Ram older 12 valve, but he had lifted it 6-speed. It was like, it's a pretty nice truck for, doing what you needed to. Well, oh yeah. I mean, that thing was just like, you thought cetane burns from a 6.0 were bad. Like this thing was just literally you were soaking fuel. But like I'm like 130 pounds. I'm like 20, 21 years old. Just like, well, I'm scrawny and don't weigh a damn thing. And I'm pushing down on this brake pedal and the hydro boost is gone. So it uses like what we even see on the F-250s. And I go to hit the brakes and I'm literally standing on them using the steering wheel to push myself against the pedal. That's how bad these brakes were. And it's a manual. So I have to like pop it into, pop the clutch as it's in low and just let the thing crawl up the deal. Well, it's got so much torque that if I just pull it out of gear, the truck will roll backwards with no brakes. So I'm like doing this fight up and back.
Oh, man.
And finally I get it in the stall and I hit the clutch. And for whatever reason, the clutch pedal got really, really hard, really, really fast, and I kept going.
Oh, no.
And I went, oh, God, panic, slammed on it a bunch of times, finally got the clutch to engage, and just hit the foot to the brake and shut the engine off at the same time, just trying to get this thing to stop. Oh, dude. Everybody was looking at me like I had lobsters crawling out. I'm like, I got it in the shop, though.
Yeah, it's in the shop. Ain't nobody trying to tow that thing in.
That clutch was all messed up, man.
Oh, dude.
Jeez.
430 gears.
Oh.
No, it had I guess he had a dual mass flywheel installed. It was
Damn.
He had bought it modified and just was taking it to us for some small stuff. And that was like what was the last straw. He ended up putting a clutch in it and some other stuff at a different place, but it was crazy, man. Like a 9,000-pound truck almost hit your toolbox, go through a wall.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I think it may be a good time to.
My phone's getting ready to die.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode here with Zach and Mark, DS up at the top, rocking in the garage. If anybody'd like to get up on the show, make sure to check the email above my head and I will get you in a queue. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.